Cesar, is that okay? What's that? Sure, test, 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 test. You okay from there? Okay. I'll go ahead and mute. Sure.
This is the long version. This is the one that's displayed on our website.
Oh, yeah.
But we need to get this on the other view. Oh, we still don't have sound, Caesar. Hey, Ryan, can you hear me? Can you talk?
Yeah, I can hear you. And Jeff he's waiting. He hasn't been promoted yet, he said.
Looks like it was a day for haircuts. Looks like David Knight fell asleep. Looks like he fell asleep in a barber's chair, maybe.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Yes? Hello, hello, hello.
1, 2,
Hello?
3. Does this hurt your brain, David?
What's that?
Does this hurt your brain?
I'm tuning it out.
Is this what you were looking?
I finally upgraded my Mac to Catalina here, my home computer.
My my phone totally crashed on.
We can hear you.
I can hear you, Susan.
Yep.
Hey. We can hear you.
So you're hearing us okay in council
Yes.
chambers?
Yep. It's fine.
So they're hearing us. Are you hearing us?
Now we can't hear you. All right, now we can hear you. Yeah, we can. No?
Well, yeah.
Oh, let's
Yeah.
see. Say more than one word. Okay. Susan,
You're
what it-
reverberating.
yeah, do you want to come to the other room? Yeah. And then Pam? Pam? Okay.
Can anyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Promote it up when you get a chance. Isn't it just this? So if you can get Jeff going, then we'll be good to go. Yep.
Okay, okay, okay. All right, so do you think we're good? I think, is Pam there? We can do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and start. Okay,
The recorder.
okay.
thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. This is, we are convened at 5 p.m. for the purpose of conducting an executive session. We will then adjourn and then rejoin our regular meeting at 6 p.m. Our town attorney will cite the reason for executive session, then we will need a motion to go into executive session. So, Jeff, if you could...
Sure, and I think we need to have Pam take the roll call just for,
Okay.
and then we can move into that motion.
Good deal. Pam, did you get that?
Okay, so Jeff has been mailed the invite to the proper address. He should be joining us any moment.
Did you hear that, Jeff?
I did, yeah. I'm on the
So
lookout.
Pam, we were gonna do roll call.
So Jeff's on.
Okay.
Now can you hear us, Pam?
Yes,
Okay, can you call roll call?
yes. All right. Let's begin. Gary Tenenbaum,
Here.
Bill Infante,
Here.
Glenn Drummond,
Here.
David Knight,
Here.
Elise Hoddle,
Present.
Ryan Slack,
Here.
and Bill King.
Here.
Present. Everyone is present. And is Jeff on yet?
He's here by voice.
Okay. I just resent him his invite to the proper address.
I have not seen it come through yet, but
For the panelist at jjc@mountainlawfirm.com.
yep. Checking junk.
Let's try.
Okay, so in the meantime, we can get started. Yeah, we'll need a motion to go into executive session. This executive session is to discuss the potential purchase of lot for the Mid Valley Center. There's a suggested motion in the meeting agenda if a town councilor could make that motion.
Mayor, I move that the town council enter executive session for the purpose of discussion, purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, or sale of property interest in accordance with CRS 24-6, 402-4A, more specifically to discuss Lot 4 Mid Valley Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will go into executive session. Do we have everybody cleared that needs cleared?
Yes, I think the only list people I see are council members,
Okay,
town manager, and staff, Susan Philp. So I think you're good. I'll beg off.
okay. You got it, Jeff.
Yeah, so we have to close down for a second. We have to get grassroots out of here, so just a second before we start.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Basalt Town Council meeting for November 24th of 2020. We will begin our meeting with a roll call. Pam, if you'd be so kind.
Absolutely. Ryan Slack? Can you hear me?
Ryan, you're on mute. You have your mute thing on.
We'll come back. Elise Huddle?
Present.
Thank you. David Knight?
Here.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond?
Here.
Thank you. Bill Infante?
Here.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum?
Here.
Thank you. Bill Kane?
Here.
Thank you. And we'll try Ryan Slack one more time. His screen is on, but his mute is on.
Ryan, are you there?
He may have stepped away for a moment.
I think the probably the roll call indicates that Elise wins the IQ contest here, because all of us said here. She says present.
Present.
Because I think she knows that this is a virtual meeting. So you get free coffee at Town Hall, Elise.
Can't wait.
Something funky about saying here in a virtual meeting. So, okay, enough for that entertainment. So we will now move on to our regular meeting, the first order of business, consent agenda, which consists of minutes, and I would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda this evening.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Just a question, with so many people that are not showing their screen, Jeff, should we be doing a roll call on that?
We just did the roll call.
Oh, no, I meant on the motion.
Oh.
Jeff, I had a question in that we have a couple counselors that we can't see them, so should we do a roll call vote on the minutes approval?
If Pam was able to audibly hear what she thought was a majority ayes and no nays, then yeah, but if there was a dissenting vote, then we should do a roll call.
Okay. So we haven't called the motion yet. I had jumped in on the roll call issue.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
None opposed. The consent agenda is approved. Our next order of business, our mayor, is a call to the public. And Susan, do you want to maybe explain for any viewers that are looking in tonight, explain how to address the council and get
Yes, this is our second meeting doing the webinar, and so no longer are you texting or emailing in and we'll call you. You actually access the public meeting by clicking the link on your agenda that you can pull up through the Agenda Center. And then I think that Caesar has up on the web, for those that are watching, there are some phone numbers that you can call, and one of them is 1-669-900-6833, and then you can punch in the information. And if you have a problem, you're supposed to text planning@basalt.net that you're having a problem. We do know that we have one individual that is seeking to speak during this time, Tony Kronberg, and so Pam, maybe you could elevate her at this time.
Tony, can you hear us? Can you unmute? There she
Hi
is.
there, can you hear me? Pam?
Yes.
Okay,
Can
great.
everybody else hear her?
Yeah, just fine.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, well, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We definitely have a lot to be thankful for this year. And I believe that this is the appropriate time for me to comment. I wanted to comment on a resolution that is before you tonight on the contract with Rudd Construction on the Albany Pool improvements. Since it's not a public hearing, I believe that this is the appropriate time. And if you want me to make my comments when you're hearing or making a motion on that resolution, I'd be happy to do that. But basically, go ahead.
Go ahead, Tony. Why don't you make?
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So as I said earlier, tonight you're going to make a decision on the resolution to enter into a contract with Rudd Construction. And I'm just wondering when the required public hearings before planning and zoning and town council are going to be held to give parties an interest and citizens an opportunity to be heard on the Albany Park pool improvements. I look forward to giving input during Basalt's required public hearings on the pool improvements. And I did send all of you an email, and I apologize. I did not realize that this was on your agenda tonight until about 10 minutes ago. And I have a couple of citations included in my email that specifically refers to the Basalt Municipal Code that states that no development should occur in the public zone district, which is what the pool is, without the benefit of public hearings before planning and zoning and the town council. So I was just wondering when that will be scheduled, and that's my question for tonight.
Okay, well, I think staff is taking note of that, and you know, if additional review is required, it will take place. So I don't know if Ryan or anyone else wants to respond, or you know, we typically don't use public comment for
Yeah, Mayor Kane, I'll just respond briefly. Is you know, just before the meeting, this came to our attention, and so you know, we haven't had a chance to delve into the code and you know, understand if this is something that's legally required for us to do. I mean, I think that the thing we'll need to look at is that technicality. You know, the good news is that Tony has had many opportunities to comment on the site improvements that we have made or that we intend to make, and whether that suffices from a technical point, we'll have to look at that. And if we have to have that hearing, then we'll go ahead and have that hearing.
All right, thank you. All right, Susan, do we have any other comment, public comment?
No, they actually come into Pam now. So Pam, is anybody else asked to be?
I see no one else on the attendees list. Just Tony. Tony's
Okay.
there, so.
All right. So Pam, is there anything else that you think we should make an announcement during this time on the new process or anything?
If we wanted to display the sign one more time for the public so that they would know at any other point in the meeting how to call in.
Okay, so I think we're ready for the next item.
All right, thank you. Our next order of business is to hear from mayor and council reports, comments. So we have an open mic here for councilors to comment about goings on around town. So have at it.
Mayor, I just want to let you guys know I was here. I missed the roll call. It was Ryan Slack. I had technical issues.
Okay,
So thanks.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're there. So I have a few housekeeping items that might be worthy of discussion. Number one, council coffee. Our next one is scheduled next Tuesday. We met at the little Adirondack chairs out under the tree last week. It was nice. It was sunny. Don't know how much longer that is going to be with us. So I don't know what people's views are, whether you want to notice it and whoever wants to go goes. How you want to skin this? Do you want them to be more formal? Do we want actually agendas? I don't, but I will offer that as a possibility. So any comments on council coffees? Do you want to notice one for next week or?
Mr. Mayor, may I just interject on one point of clarification is that with the new health order, gathering of more than, 2 families in Eagle County is prohibited. Now you can gather beyond that, but we just have to submit something to Eagle County and get that approved. So we did talk about that a little bit today. So if we want to proceed with that, we've just got to kind of come up with that outline, and staff can submit that on council's behalf and assume that we'll get it turned around. And they've been pretty good about turning it around. And so let you know on that.
All right. That's a interesting dynamic for sure.
I would say in the interest of public health, it's probably a good idea to curtail these for maybe the next month. I know we want to hear from the public and everything like that, but on the same token, it is our responsibility to look out for the public health and safety of the welfare of people, and we've got to take COVID a little bit more seriously than we have been.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way.
Yeah, I agree with Glenn in terms of in-person meetings, but I wonder if there's some sort of virtual meeting we could host as an alternative. I don't know.
Just do a Zoom or something?
I know we're all burnt out on Zooms, but yes. But it might be interesting to see if we get a different demographic participate.
Yeah.
But we don't need to make a decision this minute.
Okay. Let's, we'll circle back, Pam. I wouldn't notice anything yet. Okay, second item that I had was, Ryan and I had a really nice meeting with Grant Baller. Grant's our new Basalt Elementary School principal, who is a great young guy who's really got a ton of ideas, is going to be a real asset for the community. And Ryan has been very helpful in helping them sort through how to accommodate staff that are having a hard time with remote learning. Of course, that's not on right now, but I just think that we are gravitating towards more interdependence and greater levels of communication with our school partners, and I find that very heartening. And we have a obviously really good partner in Grant, and I think this all augurs well for the town. So just wanted to let you know that meeting took place. Next item I had on my list was that we've had some, I think, really positive communications with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. I had an opportunity to speak to JT Romansky, who's our regional manager, and I spoke to the Colorado director of CPW, Dan Prenslow. One of the topics certainly was getting the dam wall repaired at the base of Lake Christine. They offered, I thought very generously, to broaden the discussion, and after the first of the year, we are going to set up a work session with CPW to talk almost in a vision context about what we would like to see happen at Lake Christine. The dam wall that was built and was run into by a truck and smashed the blocks, and we still can't seem to get it fixed, looks like negligence. The truth is it is more complicated because the division had an obligation to bring in a structural engineer to determine whether the structural integrity of the dam was compromised by the accident, and they didn't want to just lay up more block work and cover up a problem, a structural problem that might be underneath. So I think they're open to have a broader discussion about whether we go back and rebuild the full dam and get the full pool elevation that was originally envisioned, or whether we abandon the idea of the lake and just do a revegetated open space area. So I think almost everything's on the table. So I think that's a work item and an opportunity that is before us, and we'll look forward to meeting with them when we can get a date set. We'll have both Matt Yamashita and JT Romansky come up and talk to us about what the best future looks like, what we see. I know we've got Post working on a trail access, and I think I assured them that the town would really like to see improvements up there, and it's been disappointing, the level of maintenance and support. So they're more than willing to come talk to us, and it was a really positive exchange. I don't know if we sent the letter around, Ryan, whether council has seen that, but we'll send a copy of the letter.
Yeah, happy to do that.
The status of the dam repair. So pleased with that. I think I'll defer to Bill Infante. We had a very good meeting with Jeff Schroll, and I think our intention was to make sure that Eagle County is aware that Basalt is. We want to help this effort with our generous donor, Sheldon Walitsky, who has offered to actually build a rec facility at Crown Mountain. So we had a cordial meeting with Jeff, and so we just wanted to make sure we were in the loop and could provide some support for that should it be necessary. Congratulations to the staff and to the council for taking this next big step on the river park, especially Gary, who undoubtedly gave blood to get the damn thing done. It's done. The fence is down, and you squint your eyes, you can kind of see the future there. It's pretty neat. So I think we all have a lot to be proud of, and thanks for the staff to staying on that, getting that deal done. So they're my comments for tonight. Elise Hotel. You're muted, Elise. We can't hear you.
This might be in Ryan's manager's report, but I heard a rumor that the Modio sculptures were trucked away.
Almost, Elise. They're sitting over in the parking lot near Town Hall. But
And not all of them are gone. They have another day of work left.
Yeah. They're being removed actively.
They're for sale, Elise. You could, no reasonable offer.
Yeah.
Would be.
I think I could maybe fit like one of them in my apartment.
That's great. Any other comments from reports from staff, or not from staff, from council? All right, guys, thank you. Manager's report.
So just a couple things after Elise stole my thunder. But actually, I did want to mention about the black fence and just thank Public Works. They were out there Monday morning. As I was wondering, I wonder what time they'll get there. Susan said, oh, they're already there and it's coming down. So the remainder of the black fence that you see is part of the private property piece, but rest assured that black fence will come down over the next, Susan, is it a few weeks? Tim has ordered.
Yes, his fence has been ordered. It'll be a couple weeks before it gets here, and hopefully there's no supply chain issues with it, but I think he was expecting it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. One other quick announcement. Usually We have a meeting on the 8th, as we know. Traditionally, we've canceled the second meeting in December. If there were no objections from council on that, we would post that meeting as canceled, as we would need to do according to the code. So, let us know on that. And then we did receive interesting news. I had sent council a quick note earlier, and I'll probably get some of the terminology wrong, but the state of Colorado has been chosen as a test site, if you will, for distribution of a COVID-19 vaccine. They're working with essentially UPS, FedEx, as I understand, and then some of the drug companies, and they're sort of mocking up the distribution from the company via mail. That handling, lots of these need to be held at temperature, as we know, and then getting that distribution out to, initially it will be, as I understand it, sort of frontline workers, nurses, maybe first responders, people that are going to be exposed more frequently, and then of course, some more of our at-risk population. But as I saw it, sort of mid-December for those trials to go through, and then it'll be into the spring, probably before we get to see that distributed in mass. But we'll keep you all informed on that. But it's so great to hear about that light at the end of the tunnel for us all. But it's also extremely important that we continue to practice our social distancing and wearing masks, certainly inside, outside when you can, and want to limit our gatherings to our families only, our immediate family only, to the extent that's possible. With Thanksgiving coming up, we know that there will be people out and about, and we really want to try to keep the infection rate down. So it comes down to individual responsibility on that front, and just asking everybody in the community to help us help everybody. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, one thing I failed to mention, we were able to work through or help create an opportunity for free COVID testing. So Brooke Allen, who's a neurologist MD in town, has taken it on herself to administer COVID testing. COVID testing, these are free tests. They're funded by state CARES money, and is the nose swab polymerase test, which is kind of the gold standard, is free. You do have to get a reservation, and you can simply go online. It's you'll get the link by looking up Roaring Fork free COVID test, and then you'll find a link that connects you to the Eagle County parking lot. So once again, Eagle County, Josh Roll, and the staff were very gracious in providing a site for a tent out there, and we've got virtually unlimited free COVID testing in Basalt. So they have another one in Glenwood and Carbondale, but this one's working well. But people shouldn't be discouraged if they go out there and not see anyone, because they only go when there's a reservation and somebody's scheduled. So I think they try to bunch them in groups. So there are lots of times during the day where there's no one out there. There's the tent's there, but there's no one there unless there's a reservation. So if you have staff or associates or anybody, let them know. So it's a really nice amenity to have. I guess maybe weird thing called an amenity, but maybe service to have anyway. So that's that. All right, we're ready for council actions. First order of business tonight is item 8A, public hearing, second reading of Ordinance 19, series of 2020, an ordinance Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving a contract to buy and sell real estate with Sheldon Properties, LLC, for purchase of Lot 4, Mid-Valley Center PUD, Basalt, Colorado, for the public's, for the public to understand this, we are going to be continuing this public hearing. Staff continues to carry out due diligence in investigating this purchase. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until December 8th. Is that correct, everybody?
Yeah, Jeff, I just had one question, Mayor. Would we need to open the public hearing on this before we continue?
So I think the public hearing is open. It's the public comment portion of the public hearing that hasn't. And if there are any people that would like to make public comment, we can certainly take that public comment. But if not, otherwise, our recommendation would be to continue this to December 8th.
So maybe Pam could respond if anybody has indicated that they want to speak during public comment. I haven't, I think that on Grassroots, they have that phone number if anybody wants to call in that way. And I have not received any email messages with anybody having a problem.
Do we want to give the amount of time?
Sure. If we want to give that a few minutes, I'll just say a few words while we're here. As town council knows, but just so the public knows, the regular meeting was opened earlier at 5 o'clock, and there was a motion to enter exec session for discussion of this potential purchase, and their town staff provided some updates to town council on the status of the transaction, some issues that were left to resolve, and the status of negotiations. And town council provided staff some additional direction, and we're still working on the transaction. And so, as I stated before, our recommendation is just to continue the public hearing to December 8th, and hopefully we'll be in a position of having that ready for final action by town council at that time.
Any news, Pam?
So I had received an email early this morning from Stacy Kraft. She said she was unable to access the meeting agenda packet. I resent her the link and asked her if she had any further problems to please let me know, and I've not heard back from her.
Okay.
So, no.
David?
All right.
I'll make a motion if we're ready.
David?
I was going to say, with that, there could be a motion to continue the second reading and public hearing of Ordinance 19, Series of 2020 to December 8th.
Is there a second?
Mayor, I move that we continue the public hearing and second reading of Ordinance number 19, Series of 2020 to December 8th.
Is there a second? All right, moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll. Do we need a roll call?
Yes. Okay, let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. And Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously to continue.
Okay. It moves us to item 8B, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 20, series of 2020. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2020 budget and providing for a supplemental appropriation related to the purchase of Lot 4, Mid-Valley Center PUD, Basalt, Colorado. So this, much like Ordinance 19, we will need to make the public aware that of our intention to continue this public hearing, but the floor is open for public comment should anyone want to call in.
So Pam, I don't have any emails.
Okay.
Correct, and I don't have anyone sitting in the meeting other than Tony at this point, and I don't.
So we will then, the floor is open for a motion to ordinance number 20 until December 8th.
Mayor, I move the town council continue the hearing for ordinance number 20, series of 2020 on second hearing to December 8th.
Was that the second reading and public hearing, Glenn?
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Is there a second?
Second?
All right. Been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. And Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously to continue.
All right, our next order of business is item 8C. This is the first reading on ordinance number 25, series of 2020. This is an ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts and for the purposes set forth below for the Town of Basalt, Colorado for the 2021 budget year. So this is our first official action on our 21 budget. So Christy and Ryan.
Well, first of all, yay! It's the start of the finish of a successful budget year. I've had a lot of input from community, from the council, from Finance Advisory Board, and department heads, and so this is just the culmination of all that work. Yes. Oh, I thought I heard somebody. Sorry. And so the other thing I wanted to say is that this particular appropriation can be done per our town code through a resolution or an ordinance. We chose to continue to use the ordinance because that's what we've done in the past with the town's budget. We may in the future just do a resolution so that this would, not take place with two readings, but that was the choice for this year, just to make sure for that consistency. So there was that, and so we did take all the council thoughts into the consideration on this budget too, as far as the formatting, and we made some minor formatting changes on this budget. The only other change from the budget you'd seen before is that I added $65,000 in the water fund, as I noted on the cover letter, and that was just per the auditors, because that does hit our balance sheet, but we still have to appropriate that. And so I wanted to make sure that was reflected correctly, so we made that change. But other than that, there's been no change from the prior budget. Our sales tax numbers from our past months have been actually higher than projected in this budget, so it's still hoped for that we'll have a higher fund balance than anticipated, but really depends on the impacts of COVID. If we see some pretty negative numbers in the next couple of months, then obviously that could have an impact, but as of right now, it looks like it's trending favorably, and but not favorably enough to put us into a Tabor issue, so that's good as well.
Great. So, meaty topic here. Are there questions, comments of council for Christy or Ryan? Okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the ordinance number 25 on first reading.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 25, series of 2020 on first reading, and set the public hearing and second reading for December 8th, 2020.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
They've been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
I wasn't expecting that. Elise Hoddle, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Elise. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum?
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack?
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond?
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight?
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. We move on to item 8D. This is first reading of ordinance number 26. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt providing for supplemental appropriations for the year ending December 31, 2020, related to various budgetary line items. Christie?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I'm just getting to where I need to on my screen so I can share my screen for this one. All right, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. All right. So this one, the supplemental budget is pretty much what we do is we keep track of all of the different changes that council's made to the budget that impact the budget that we may not have passed a supplemental appropriation for. And because according to the state statute and town code, we need to make sure that with those big expenditures, especially if they're going to put us over budget by a department, that we also then increase our budget to make sure that that's reflected correctly. So this is a cleanup item really for the budget for 2020. The other reason why we do this too is to look at all of our revenue and try to paint a better picture, closer to what we think is actually going to happen compared to what our original budget said. So we added some other line items in there as well. So in looking at the ones that town council had really taken some action on this year is really looking at the CARES Act funding for $218,500, which is an increase in revenues on the top, and then also an expenditure down below. Also looking at, let's see here, the Ted Guy lawsuit, we're adding that in to make sure we're not over budget on that. Tabor refund. So this was an unknown as far as how that funding was going to be spent at the beginning of the year. But it actually is going to be spent to prepay our COPs early because we didn't have any legal challenges or any hiccups in how that refund had been completed, thankfully. And then, so those are the ones that that council is well aware of. And there's others here that we've talked about that you're probably aware of that I'm just adding to the budget to make sure that we're kind of closer to our final numbers on our actuals, but not exact. I mean, it's not an exact science, but it puts those big ones in there, if you will. So those would be the additional building permit fees that we've talked about for $191,000, and then it's offset by some contract labor because of the additional building permit fees for the review. Then we have just the Basalt Sunny Market, that's just a cleanup one that we did. And then additional sales tax is our big one for $700,000. We're adding it to the budget this year. And then we're also, let's see which other ones. Yeah, we're taking out some items that were moved to 2021 to make sure that we're not double encumbering those in 2 different years, just so that keeps that super clean. So at the end of the day, after this particular supplemental budget and excluding any public works facility supplemental budget, we're looking at increasing the fund balance on our budget by $807,000 according to this one. So our original budget for 2020 was 177 to the negative, and so that would mean about a $600,000 increase on the revised budget. So that would be a surplus that we would be expecting. And it's actually higher than that, as I noted here, but there's a lot of little nitty changes, smaller changes that are hard to just put. If I put all the changes in the budget on here, you guys would be overwhelmed. So it's not an exact science, but it gets us closer.
Well, thank you. Always easy to approve increases in fund balances. That's it's not a the thing to do.
Christy, can I just ask a quick question, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
The Basalt Sunday Market shows up under revenue and expenses. What's going on there?
Oh yeah, so this one is additional account that used to be managed by a manager of the Basalt Sunday Market, and now we're taking that under the town's accounts to just kind of clean that up. So that's going to be additional revenue that we're bringing in. So we're going to record all that revenue in and expense out. So usually it's a wash. It might be actually a little more revenue than this is what we're expecting. But then it just makes it cleaner moving forward.
Gotcha.
All right. Any questions of Christy on our supplemental appropriations? So this is an ordinance, and I would entertain a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 26, series of 2020.
Mayor, I move the town council approve ordinance number 26, series of 2020 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for December 8th, 2020.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Bill Infante.
Yes, I approve.
Thank you, Bill. Elise Huddle.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. And David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We now turn to item 80 on our agenda. It's first reading of ordinance number 27, series of 2020. Ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the town's schedule of fines, penalties, and administrative fees regarding the Energy Code and SBR review fee. So Susan and Christy are going to explain.
Well, this is a tag team with Christy and myself. We, in our fee schedule, we have a fee to account for our energy review for compliance with the energy code part of the building code, and then also our sustainable building regulations. And the intent of that fee is to cover our costs. So it's set at 10% of the building permit fee, and currently it has a limit, an upper threshold on that of $2,000, and that's not covering our costs for that review. You may know that we contract that service out with Amanda Poindexter with Full Circle Construction, and we simply want to be able to account for our costs. So it's 10% up to that threshold. And then there actually is another provision that if we have to bring in experts on the review, that we can charge those services plus an administrative fee. But Christy looked at the numbers and felt comfortable with raising the threshold up to the $10,000 mark. So that's what the amendment to the fee schedule does.
And in essence, the hope at that point, we can't ever really control how many big developments come in any given year. But it looks like the way that it's trending with the big developments we usually get, the $10,000 threshold will be able to break even, and that's really the intent, to make sure that we're covering those SBR fees.
Great. Did we get any feedback from our regulated industry on this one, or yeah?
You know, we didn't see.
It's such a de minimis portion of the total construction, building permit, soft cost. You know, I can't imagine it would move the needle much. But, any rate, any questions, comments from council? Sounds like it's a very sensible thing to do. So I'll entertain a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 27, series of 2020.
Mayor, I move the
Mayor, Go for it, Glenn.
Glenn was out of the chute. That was like the horse was in the number 2 position, broke from the gate first.
Mayor, I move that town council approve ordinance number 27, series of 2020 on final reading and set the public, or first reading, public hearing and second reading for December 8th, 2020.
Second.
And it's been seconded by Elise. Thank you very much. Pam, please call the roll.
Okay, let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Huddle.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. And Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We now turn to item 8F on the agenda, Resolution 39, Series of 2020. It's the resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving the expenditure of community enhancement funds from Holy Cross Energy.
This one's Susan 2. Since 2008, the town has had a community enhancement fund with Holy Cross Energy. It's part of our franchise agreement, and a couple years ago when we renewed our franchise agreement, we kept the same language in there, and the language is it's for monies, the monetary resources available to the town for programs designed to make a difference in people's lives and the communities where they live. So essentially, what this resolution is doing is it's saying of the funds that we get from Holy Cross, $40,000 of that will be used in 2021 for events, and $10,000 will be given to the Basalt Vista project. And that was essentially an agreement that the Green Team advocated a couple years ago in order to make Basalt Vista a net zero project. So they recommended that the town give $10,000 a year for 3 years, and this is the final year. So this allocation of those funds is the same as what we've done, I think, for the last, since this will be the 3rd year that it's been exactly this way. And these are how the funds are reflected in the town's budget, so we wanted to bring it to you at the same time that you approved the first reading.
Great. Questions of Susan on Holy Cross Community Enhancement Funds? No, this is all good stuff. Glad they're still doing this. So we need a motion to approve resolution number 39, 2020. Glenn, looks like you're warming up there.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Mayor, I move the town council approve resolution number 39, series of 2020.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is this a voice vote or is this a reso need a roll call?
Yes, a roll call.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Okay. All right, let's begin with Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Elise Huddle.
Yes.
And Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you both. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. On to item 8G, resolution number 40, series of 2020, resolution of Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, authorizing and directing the town manager to enter into a contract with Rudd Construction for the RV Pool Park, RV Pool improvements. So,
Mayor,
yes.
I'm going to kick it off and sort of MC because we have a few different presenters tonight. And so it does look like we have Carol Hawk on from the Post Committee as well as Jason Grove. So want to just acknowledge them. And I think toward the end, Jason's going to say a few words. And if Carol has anything that as well, that would be welcome. At the last meeting, as you know, we presented the option to you that.
Ryan?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to recuse myself. So.
We'll text you when we finish this one, okay, Elise?
Great, thank you.
Thank you, I forgot about that. So as you know, at the last meeting, we had presented the bids that we got back, and the direction from council was to go back, work with the contractor, post, to see about value engineering that project. We're gonna look more closely at the numbers here tonight, but you know, the low bid was Rudd Construction, and they were the qualified bidder of choice at $3.3 million. And we have a second value engineered option for you coming in at around 2.6. And so James is going to talk a little bit about that process and sort of how they had worked with Post, what those options look like between the original full-blown option and the value engineered option. And then we did get some questions from council, and so we want to make sure we're addressing those. Brian Pacenti, who is our recreation director, went back and tried to extrapolate some of the numbers that we see at the pool. So how many users do we have in a season? And so we're going to do our best to explain that to you. We don't keep strict counts on that, but you know, we were able to back into some of those numbers based on revenues, swim lessons, and season pass holders. So we'll be able to share that. And then Christy's going to talk to you all about the numbers. So basically what we're going to do there is talk about these two different options and then three different funding options or three different funding mechanisms for those two pool improvement options. And then, as I said at the beginning, we'll ask Jason and Carol if they wanted to add anything to the conversation. And then basically tonight, as you saw from the resolution, was we were asking council to approve the contract or allow me to sign the contract. The point on that was to have the contractor be able to start moving ahead with that winter construction schedule, order some of the materials and things. That approval tonight would be for the value engineered option, and then we've built in the ability for council to provide direction on fully funding the full-blown pool improvement option, but we would come back with more information at a later date on that. And then I will just close with, tonight we heard from Tony Kronberg that there was a miss on a public hearing for site plan review, and so we might hear from staff a little bit on that, but we probably need to.
I'm going to my headphones for some reason. Not sure who's talking. Sorry.
We might need to have council and staff look at that. So once we get through the presentation, we can talk about the technicality of that and how we might want to proceed. So yes, Pam?
Tim Thompson, is he to be involved in this?
Who is it?
Tim Thompson?
I don't know who that is.
Tim is with Rudd. He's the main contractor, so that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, I'll elevate him. Thank you so much.
James, you want to kick it off, sir?
Sure. Let me share my screen here. Just a quick second. So, thank you. As Ryan mentioned, staff went back and worked with the lowest bidder, who was Rudd Construction, to come up with a value engineering option. And then we also had several meetings with Post to work through the value engineering options. And so what we did, as Ryan mentioned, is came up with a $2.6 million version, and I'll kind of go through the differences between the $3.3 million version and the $2.6 million version. You've got the $3.3 million version here on the left of your screen, and then the $2.6 million version. We've got a list here under it of the adjustments from the value engineering. Basically, it includes asphalt pass in the $2.6 million version around the pool, rather than the decomposed granite pass that were in the original version that was bid out. There's more of a budget fence, and I'll show you kind of a detail on that here in a minute, rather than the custom fence that was previously programmed and also had cantilever elements from the $3.3 million version. Other revisions from the value engineering is that in the original scope, there was this life floor in the robot pool. It's kind of a soft, squishy flooring. And then in the value engineered version, you really just have the plaster flooring as you have in a typical pool. Other changes included dropping the number of rain curtains that are the feet of the robot from 2 to 1. You see there were 2 in the feet on the original version, and then 1 rain curtain on the revised value engineer version. The thought was that it looks like the robot has 1 leg out and 1 leg bent from the slides that are on the other leg. In the original version, you saw significant new furniture throughout the pool area. That would be cut out in the revised version, and potentially, we could get new furniture over time, but not in the initial budget. There wasn't additional landscaping. However, they are preserving some of the trees in the value engineer concept adjacent to the robot pool. And other items, you have the new heat pumps that are in this area, and there were no real adjustments to the mechanical that was proposed in the original bids. However, there were CMU walls that were programmed around the heat pumps in the original scenario. And then in the revised value engineering scenario, you have more of just a fence scenario around them instead of CMU walls. So a fence with covering on it for soundproofing. In the revised value engineering scenario, there wasn't a new diving board. Brian can speak to the shape of the existing diving board. We thought that was an item that could be pushed out into the future. And then limited shade on the robot pool as compared to the significant shading that was proposed in the $3.3 million version. We had originally cut out all the shade sales, but post through their discussions asked staff to kind of add back some shade and felt that that was an important element. And then other adjustments, just similar adjustments that I just went over. Shade sales have been reduced, budget fence, less furniture, and then you've got the chain link fence with the sound dampening material instead of the CMU wall that was originally programmed. And just kind of in more detail, as I said, reduce the number of rain curtains at the feet to 1, and remove the life flooring in the robot pool. And then maybe the most significant adjustments, here was the budget fence as well. In the original proposal that went out to bid, there was a cantilevered fence that had some significant concrete casing to allow it to stand sturdy. You lessen that with just a straight up vertical fence. And so this would be kind of a scenario for revised fencing in the value engineering. And then the locker rooms had maybe the most significant reduction in terms of amenities from the $3.3 million scenario to the 2.6. Originally in the $3.3 million, there was new lockers that were kind of COVID ready lockers. There were significant changes in terms of new tiling that were small style tiling. And so that's kind of all been reduced to new 6x6 tiles and then epoxy floors. Still gonna look at new shower heads and new lockers, but they're not the fancy ones that were previously spec'd. And then we had light tubes that were proposed in the locker rooms to try to get additional light into the facilities to soften them up. Instead of doing the light tubes in the $2.6 million version, that's been reduced to some new LED lights, which I think can have a similar kind of effect. And then, you know, instead of tiling all the walls, we've kind of pared that down to painting the walls for less cost. And then there's also hiding the plumbing under the sink is in the scenario here. So, you know, that's kind of the rundown. As I said, there hasn't been a change to the mechanical, still doing significant mechanical improvements that were discussed throughout the reviews. And so as Ryan noted, we have some budget options that are in the packet that staff has concurrently been looking at. And Christy can go into more detail on those in a minute here. The options included doing COPs to pay for the $3.3 million version, or to do some adjacent reduced scope by allocating some restricted funds and other options for paying for the reduced scope project. But you do have a draft resolution in your packet. As Brian noted, it includes entering into the reduced scope with RUD. And then if the town were to issue COPs in the future or get other funding through grants, the town manager would be authorized to bump it up to potentially the full scope project. So staff thinks this is an important resolution to improve this evening, as the applicant would need to get, the contractor would need to get going on the work in order to finish it before next pool season. So that's why we have it in front of you this evening. With that, was going to turn it over to Brian to talk about some of the demographics and just some additional items, and then Christy will follow up with that. Brian, do you have additional comments?
I do, James. I have some numbers. Is there a chance I could share the screen?
Sure. There we go.
All right. I hope everyone can see that. I have the pool visits by the numbers up on the screen here. In 2019, we was the first year I was on board at the pool here, and we started the process of breaking down the passes by categories of day pass, season pass, group swim lessons, and private swim lessons. There's some other ones in there as well, but pertaining to visits of the pool, these were the ones that were pretty significant. And you can see the funds that we made in 2019 in those categories. If you take those categories and break them down to daily averages, you get these numbers in here. We were open in 2019 for 105 days. The average cost of a pass, a day pass, walk-in day pass, is $525, which equates to about 38 visits a day. And that's just the walk-in rate. For season passes, it's a little bit different and trickier. If you bought a season pass, we didn't really track it. We tracked that you bought a season pass and allowed you entry to the pool, but we didn't track how many visits that season pass generated each day or week or season. And so we could just take some averages based that potentially 20 participants. It's a pretty conservative assumption that 20 participants a day use those season passes between swim, lap swim times, family swim times. We also had 250 participants for group swim lessons and 40 participants for private swim lessons. And all that comes out to be 3,970 paid day rates to enter the pool for the year. And season pass visits, going back to our assumption at the higher row, is that we had 2,000 pool visits. And so that roughly is about 6,000 pool visits in the 2019 season. There's no digital records of that membership. Everything was pretty much pen and paper. And we're in an attempt to change that, in 2020, we changed over to a new recreation software program. And we were going to track a lot more of that stuff. But of course, we're in a pandemic. And so all we sold this year was day pass sales. And those day pass sales equated to about 50 to 60 participants per day. That's between lap swimmers, family swim times, and aqua aerobics. And that comes out to be about roughly 4,800 visits to the pool this year during COVID, during a pandemic. We started the new software in April. April 1st was its launch during the pandemic. And currently there are 778 accounts. And in those accounts, there's
Basalt Pool has 1,600 members. Isn't it? That's kind of surprising. It's a pretty high number given our tiny little town.
Inside of those accounts, there are 1,572 members. So about each household has 2 participants, some more and some less, but otherwise, those are the numbers. If anyone has any questions that popped up during that, I'd love to answer them.
Brian, we may come back to that if it's all right. You can stop sharing and we'll move on for Christy to do her presentation. And one thing I think it's important to note, just as we get into the details of how we might finance one of these options, is to the extent that we are pursuing the recommendation from Post, which was to continue on down the road with the full option, that would require certificates of participation. And I think it's really important for us to message to the community that if we were to do that, the source of paying back those funds is 100% Post money. So there are no other uses allowed for Post other than parks, open space, and trails. And Post did take a look at what this option would mean for other expenditures within that fund. With this option, it was sort of the least disruptive. And part of that was, as Christy will talk about, right now is a favorable time given the interest rate on borrowing money that's likely under 2%. We're being conservative at 2% to pay those back. But as we're sort of in the throes of COVID, and we know that there's some thoughts out there of, hey, where can the local government, the state government, the federal government lend a hand? It wouldn't be out of this pot of money. So I just want to make sure for that and for other capital items, we're just kind of staying in this lane of the Post money. So with that, Christy, if you want to kick it off, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. Multifaceted team effort here. So the first thing that's really important to go through, and James did a fantastic job on this as well, is looking at our options and just making sure that everybody's really clear on what that total option is including all inclusive with soft costs and PV panels, etc. So when you look at option 1, that's no change in the scope from the bid. That does not include your add alternates in there, okay? So that would be the 3.3 million in construction, and then plus some soft costs in there as well. To total about 3.785 million is what we're anticipating on that option 1. Now option 2 is reducing the construction to 2.66 million. That doesn't necessarily reduce your soft costs because there's some re-engineering potentially involved in the second option, even though there's a higher scope in the first option. But you still save some money, and it would come in at a total project cost of $3,118,000. So that's your two options there. Okay. So as Ryan indicated, there's really, I mean, 3 options that we have as far as how to fund this. And the first option is, if we're going to look at fully funding this, we really need to, in our thinking, look at COPs. Now, COPs stands for Certificates of Participation. And what those are is they're a lease option buyback of the facility. So that's literally a bank is going in there and going to actually, we're going to sell the building to them, and then we pay the lease back over the time period of the COP, and then we retain the final ownership on that. So that's just kind of in general terms how a COP works. And the reason why we would look at a COP is to try to make sure that we could get those total sources up to that 3,785,000 number right in 2021, because this will really be a gauntlet year, if you will, for post, given that we're looking at already, you know, the funding there is pretty tight with these projects and the increase in the construction costs. So what we would need to garner from the COPs to kind of match our budget numbers from the expense side is about $2,054,000. Okay, and what that would equate to is proceeds of about 2.1 million from the COPs, and then a cost of issuance roughly of 55,000. And that 55,000 is probably a little overstated, but what that would be is all of your underwriters' costs, legal costs, all those things. And I just like to overstate things slightly just to make sure we've got it covered with that. The thing about these COPs that's really favorable, as everybody knows, is this interest rate market is so low. And so we're presuming an interest rate of 2%. I've reviewed these numbers with Bruce Kimmel, the town's financier and consultant, and he really likes this option as a viable option for the town at a low cost of debt or lease, if you would call it that. Okay, the life of the lease would be 5 years, and the annual payments would be roughly $450,000. Ryan indicated also that all the annual payments would be coming out of post. Okay, so that would be your COP option, and this is the only option for fully funding the project. If you're looking at some other options as far as changing the scope to the 2.66 million in total construction, we have 2 options for that. The first option is obviously, once again, to use the post funding as it's already been budgeted. And then we're adding some value into the project through some restricted funding sources and unrestricted funding sources through our general fund, as well as reducing some other post items. So there's an opportunity cost there in that reduction of other post items that would need to be we'd have to wait on. So this first one of $300,000 is our general sales tax that would come from our general fund. We did see an increase, as you saw in our appropriation for 2020 in our sales tax, and so we look at taking 300,000 of that to go towards this project to value add that, and then it would add park dedication fee to the project of 100,000. So it's RETA 2 funding, which is also can be used for Albany Park that benefits the entire town, and then the post reduction. So that's how you would get to your additional funding needed to get to the total of $3,118,000. So then the third option is also for the lower scope of project, and this would be a general fund unrestricted loan. So that what that option would look like is, again, the post funding, as we've already stated, a parkland dedication fee that was in the prior option, and then on top of that, we would lend through the general fund balance a loan amount of $1,287,000. And so this would pretty much equate to our entire balance available after our minimum fund balance. So it's tight, but possible still. So that would be how this option would get us to the smaller scope of $3,118,000. I've also reviewed, I just wanted to note one other thing, is I did review this with Jeff Conklin. We've talked about if we look at the COP option, that option is available because the Albany Park is not funded or not, excuse me, encumbered in any way. So that's available for use in the COPs. So we vetted that pretty thoroughly, this option. Are there any questions on this?
Christy, I had a quick one on, would there be prepayment penalties on COPs should we, for any reason, conclude that we can pay that down faster, or you pretty much signed up for the 5-year term?
That's a great question, Bill. Thank you. You know, the way we would structure this is through a bank placement, and that's different than just a bond, because it lowers your cost of issuance here, and it's almost like a bid process through banks. And so you can bid it out any way you'd really like to, and your underwriter really works with you to make sure you get the most favorable interest rate. And a lot of times you can do a general bid and then negotiate that term with the bank of choice as well. So that is an option. Our current COPs do not have a prepayment penalty. So that's something that banks do offer quite frequently.
Yeah. You know, a conversation we had during my review, Bill Infante and I met with Christy and Ryan, and you know, there's certainly a potential here for an arrangement whereby we could invest funds in a fixed income instrument and achieve greater than 2%, thereby maybe arbitraging here and being able to take a spread between a cost of 2% versus funds that could be earning, you know, 3 to 4%, and taking that difference and plowing it back into the project. So that's kind of an appeal of getting money at 2%. That's pretty spectacular.
Well, and yeah, Mr. Mayor, is that the current interest rates we're getting on College Trust are pretty low right now. They're about 0.4%. However, you know, you never know what interest rates will do in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least we would, at worst, we would mitigate the 2%. We could offset that 2% with having funds on hand that are earning something anyway to mitigate or defray the cost of the COPs.
Mm-hmm.
So, at any rate, that's just a thought.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Does that conclude your presentation, Christy?
It does, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much.
Okay. Ryan, where do you want to go with this?
You're on mute.
Ryan Mahoney, you're muted, sir.
I think we were going to have the members of Post speak, which we have 3, I think, on right now. Jason Groves, Carol Hawk, and Julie Kolar are all here representing Post.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Carol, Jason?
Mr. Mayor, like Jason tried to unmute.
I think we were met with the same reaction that council was when we saw the numbers here, and it was pretty disappointing. But given direction that we needed to explore a sort of a limited scope project, we did our best to try to deliver a more affordable project with completing sort of the intended outcomes that we had hoped to see for the pool facility. So I don't think you could trim this much more without just completely devastating the project. So, you know, I think it's really at this point up to you all and Christy, who has much more horsepower between the ears than anybody on post when it comes to the numbers, to devise a ideal funding mechanism to get the project done.
Great. Carol?
Yeah, I think, you know, we definitely did our best. Unfortunately, most of the expense is in the energy efficiency, which we didn't want to get rid of. I mean, one of the things of getting rid of those tubes in the ceiling, I believe, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it added a couple of more solar panels. So those are the things that we were really trying to concentrate on, but we didn't want to end up with a robot with one leg and one arm. So we want to present to the public, you know, a fabulous pool for the kids. And I think, you know, this is what we've done.
Great. Well, I guess, you know, the question that's really posed to council here, and I think where, you know, our little chore tonight here is provide some, aside from the resolution retaining RUD, is to provide some feedback to staff on how we'd like to what we think is the appropriate avenue to pursue in financing.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Julie was also on the line.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her there. Julie, you still with us?
I am. Thanks, Gary.
Oh, sorry, didn't see you there.
Thanks, Bill. That's okay. Yeah, no, I echo what my partners in crime have said. You know, we really reviewed all the details, kind of excruciatingly. It's hard when you dream up a pretty fantastic plan to start cutting back. We did want to maintain the super energy forward model, and so did, as Carol said, prioritize that. We also don't want to fall flat in terms of the public's perception of the pool once they show up, because to spend all this money and not have a fully aesthetic, appreciated, oh, something changed dramatically kind of experience with the price tag, we tried to maintain a decent amount of that kind of visual experience to coincide. So we're hoping that what we cut and what we didn't cut can kind of, you know, continue to align some of that. Obviously, if we could go for the full Monty, we would, and that would be probably most appreciated by everybody because it covers all bases and covers all generations, all the different user types. So, you know, all things considered, we think that we struck a balance with the compromise plan. Of course, if we could go for it, that'd be awesome.
Great.
And Mayor, we also had Paul Hiltz is also
Paul.
on post.
Paul's, you can turn your video on, Paul, if you'd like. We'd love to see your handsome face if you could turn your video on. Or not. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, there he is. So any thoughts that you'd like to contribute?
No, nothing to add. It was disappointing, of course, the bids that we got. We would have liked to have done a more comprehensive plan that Giles and his people put together. But that's the reality of the situation. So I think everyone from Giles' group and from Post has done the best they could to make this work.
All right. So Ryan and Susan, do you want to hear from the RUD guys? Where do you want to go next with this?
I mean, I think that they can certainly fill in if there are questions of them, but I think, you know, staff is really looking for direction to the extent you feel, you know, informed enough and comfortable in providing that to staff. And, you know, an indicator of sort of which direction you're leaning, if possible, on the funding options. And then ultimately we would like to, you know, get that resolution approved to be able to provide RUD with that go ahead.
Yeah. One thought I had was that if we were unable to achieve the second robot and the water curtain, that maybe we have Giles Thornley would volunteer to be out there and be the second robot for the summer. What do you think, Giles? do you have anything you would like to add to this discussion before we get?
Yeah, I mean, I think the word disappointed has been used by every single one of the post members, which is always a great start to any conversation, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, as I mentioned in our last presentation, we were just astonished by the price of construction, the price of concrete, the price of steel, the price to get a laborer in there, the price to get a mason, the price to get skilled labor, electricians, plumbers, is through the roof. So it caught everyone off guard, and we've been working extremely hard with James and the rest of the post committee to try and make this work. And you know, again, not entirely sure what we can do at this stage other than listen to your counsel and to your wisdom as to how to proceed from this point. I would like to reiterate, you guys had a climate emergency that was declared. This isn't a climate excuse. This isn't a climate, let's wait about it. This is an emergency. And I'm so thrilled that we are able to at least put the mechanical system at the forefront. It has not been an inexpensive endeavor, but I can imagine people from around the country coming to Basalt Municipal Pool to understand how on earth they're able to run an entire pool municipal complex from the sun and use green electricity. What you're doing here sets the tone of an emergency, and we could not be more proud of where we've achieved, what we've achieved to this date. The robot is going to be fun. I think it's going to be a huge draw from throughout the valley. I think you're going to be very busy, and I think the changing rooms look horrendous today, and we'll do the best we can with a lower estimate to make them basically slap some paint on and make them look a little bit better. But I think this facility will become a very well-renowned facility for what you're doing in terms of a climate emergency. It's set a standard that we cannot find anywhere in this country. So at the very least, I know people are disappointed with the price and the bids no more than we are, but this project is so much more, and could not be more proud again of being on this team. That's all I have to say. Thanks, Bill.
Well said, thank you. So it seems that the question before us is, you know, are we willing to support the staff in what would be a pretty quick effort to try to secure a commitment for COPs between now and January? It sounds like the scenario is if we can locate 2% money, that we could recoup the majority of the original project scope. The other options, which, you know, involve general fund monies, you know, would almost certainly require us to go forward with a reduced scope. So really up to council. I know I certainly would not hesitate to lead off and say that I would really encourage the staff to pursue the COP avenue and see if we can recoup as much of the scope of this as possible. I just think, you know, kind of kids first here in this community. So that's one person's view. Other council, Bill Infante.
Yeah, I will share the same disappointment. I think it's somewhat incredible that we were led to believe that we were going to have a pool for 1.6 and then we come in with something closer to 3.7. I don't know how we misestimate or commit such an error. But I also would argue that Post and the team have done a brilliant job of designing a facility that will indeed be world-class. And I feel like that's frankly the first decision that we need to come to tonight, is which iteration of the variety of proposals we want to pursue. I myself am strongly inclined to pursue the original proposal, albeit the much more expensive proposal, because I think it will deliver something that we can all be proud of, that will serve our community, that our community has been looking forward to, and which we will be very, very proud of. If others agree, then we get to the question of how we finance it. And there I would agree with Christie's incisive financial acumen and suggest that we go along with the certificates of participation. They're inexpensive. I have expressed in other fora reservations about COPs because they do dodge Tabor regs, albeit they are completely legal, and they are, there are many, many precedents, including in Basalt, and they are a very sensible way to finance the construction of a pool that we can all be very proud of. Now, looking to the repayment, we have, as all counselors know, budgeted $600,000 in each of the next 4 fiscal years for Albany improvements. We have a source of funds that can very comfortably service this obligation. The reality is we can't have all of our cake and eat it too. So those the line item budget for 2022, 23, 24, and 25 were intended to support other expenditures. I know that, but this is the kind of decision we need to make. It's just a trade-off. If we want a world-class pool, we spend the money, we build it, and we will be able to service the debt very comfortably from what are legitimately the most appropriate funds, being post funds. And so let me leave it at that, but I think you guys did a great job with the design, and I think Christy has done a great job in conceiving a financial structure that will get this done.
Harry? Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I do want to thank, to me, it's always something that I want to look towards, the committees that we empower to really go through a public process and to develop a scope that is, in this case, the scope was impressive, and I think the community got excited. Yes, it's really exciting, and for me personally, the improvement to the mechanical systems and the reduction of the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that we will achieve here is huge. But this committee that we empower has worked really hard to come up with a plan that works. It's a bummer, and Giles is taking it on the chin tonight from all of us about the miss in the estimating. But the reality is this is the cost, and I don't think it's going to get any cheaper unless we magically have some massive recession. It just doesn't get cheaper. And so this is a huge community benefit, not just for the kids. I mean, there's tons of adults who use this pool. And so I think if you make it a better amenity overall, more people will use it. And really, truly, the plan that's been created, to me, was never that extravagant to begin with. It was a very, good plan that had a lot of great improvements, but it didn't do a whole new pool and all these things. It just kind of keeps the feel of what you got. I think you could still do some value engineering and making sure that when we finally get the cost going, that we can keep it to this level. I'm always a fan of, not spending all that money right away. I think right now with the interest rates being so low, and this money is basically just for post, COPs are a great way to go. And it allows, the town to do so many more projects at such a low interest rate that I'm in favor of going forward with the full plan and the COPs.
I couldn't really.
You want to go, David?
Okay, thanks. I was soft. No, for all the post folks, you guys have done an exceptional job, and we appreciate the perseverance that you've shown there, and staff too, for especially Christy with the financing options. I'll go ahead and sign myself up too. I think the COPs are the best option and get the full scope of the project done. I'm not supportive of options B or C because of their use of general funds. I'm just not comfortable with that level of risk, but limiting our funding to post makes sense. That's what post is there for. Again, the disappointment in the difference between the estimate and the bids, sure. I think the important thing though that we need to look at is lessons learned, like even kind of post-mortem, like how did it happen? What can we do better? There'll be more projects in the future. There's other things to work on. It'll be good to kind of hone that level of accuracy with the lessons that we learned here. So I'd like to see that happen. And but this is a significant amenity for our community, and the full scope of this is going to maximize the value of that amenity, and we're going to be able to enjoy it for years and years. So thanks to everybody.
Yeah, maybe a post-mortem comment about the costing. More and more contractors are turning to offering pre-construction services, and the drill is that before you really lock into budgeting, you pay your general on some kind of hourly basis or some arrangement to at least go out to the sub-community and start getting a feel for pricing, testing material costs, and helping with budgeting. And I think that's the lesson learned. I think that's the way we remedy this in the future, is just ensure on a major capital project that we have in the town that we pay. It's a very small premium to pay to engage a contractor to firm up pricing before we really go to kind of hard budgeting and preparation of financing scenarios. So that's the lesson I would take away from this. So any additional comments from council? We have the item that's before us is actually an action to it's a resolution to engage Rudd Construction. But nested within this was direction to staff. You've gotten some feedback here, Ryan Mahoney. Do you want more formalized direction from council, or you feel like you got a sense of the council and you can kind of move forward with the financing COP option? Or
yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think we have a sense from the council, and we certainly appreciate that. I think we need to address this issue on the site plan technicality that was brought up. I remain a little confused by that. I mean, this pool is existing. It was built in 1994, assuming a site plan was brought forth then. We're keeping the footprint largely the same here. And so, I see this as a bit of a disruption. And frankly, not really happy with what I'm hearing. But I'd like to hear from Mr. Conklin, if we could, just on a suggestion so we don't misstep and create an issue with the timing that we're up against with the contractor. And maybe, if Susan or James have anything to chime in on the site plan requirements, that would be helpful for council's sake.
Sure. So as was noted at the outset of our meeting, we received some public comment that questioning whether or not a site plan was required as part of this project. I have not had a full opportunity to really review that issue to determine whether or not a site plan would have been required or should or is not as part of this proposed work on the pool. I guess I'd invite Susan or James to provide any comments on that, but also some options from the town council on approving this resolution, or on taking action on this resolution and wanting to address that issue. I know one might be just to continue the action on the resolution to our next meeting. However, I understand that might present some timing complications for our contractor. There's likely a path within the code to pursue some exemption to the site plan activity in the event that's something that was required. So the town council could approve the resolution subject to the town obtaining an exemption from the site plan requirement if it is determined to be required. Or a third alternative would be to pursue a site plan before taking action on this. So with that, I guess I'll ask Susan or James if they have any other thoughts, and I can provide a few more comments here after that.
I think Gary had a question maybe as well.
Yeah. Did you want to hear from Susan first, Gary, or you want to go?
Sure. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Susan.
Well, we had looked at a site plan process and whether it was required. And, I guess our position at the time was that we had larger issues that we were dealing with Albany Park in terms of tearing down the existing restrooms. Were we going to move the entrance to the pool? And those items, and I think we thought those were more appropriate for a full site plan process, and that we were taking the existing pool and changing the fence and making the robot pool and making significant locker room improvements, and those weren't really kind of triggering the site plan process. We didn't do a site plan process. By way of example, when we were doing the linear park and the playground, the new playground equipment that we did a couple of years ago. So, we do a lot of improvements on town property, in the building, on sites, without, requiring a site plan process. I do think, given that we have an objection that maybe we should do a procedural step here. My initial thought was, can we have Jeff kind of weigh in and go ahead with the notice to proceed, and if he thinks that there is an issue that we direct the town manager not to issue the notice to proceed until we kind of satisfactorily resolve that. And it might mean that we do a site plan exemption, but I think we hadn't brought Jeff really into this issue. It came up, Tony gave us a call earlier, right before the meeting to kind of apprise us of this. So those were kind of my thoughts. James, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, I agree with kind of the background that you provided, and there's potential to maybe approve the contract contingent on approval of exemption from site plan if determined necessary. That might be the way.
I wonder if there isn't also a scenario whereby that the detail and level of review and scrutiny that was applied to the Albany pool process with post isn't tantamount to fulfilling the requirements of site plan review. The other element is that we are facing almost an absurd question here. Why is a site plan required for a facility that already exists? There's nothing that could be more precise than the actual physical reality of the amenity that's already in place. So a plan anticipates some sort of proposed change land use action, and we're basically improving an existing facility. But that's I will defer to Jeff on that one. But it's very surprising to me that would be required. Gary Tenenbaum.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 40, series of 2020, approving a contract with Rudd construction for the Albany pool improvements. And, you know, there's contingency for the town attorney to check into this potential site plan issue. But for me, we have done so many improvements to existing facilities without doing a full site plan review that I just don't believe this is necessary. But you could bring it back, so I'll keep that contingency for attorney to review, and if necessary, to bring it back to us.
Second.
Second.
Gary's motion, and this is a capital improvement project. I want that on the record. This is a capital improvement project.
Glenn? So we have a motion and a second. Unless there's further discussion, Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, I think David had discussion. David, you're muted.
I didn't hear it.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry
yeah.
about that. Yeah, I just had a quick question. If we do have to do a site review, can we have an extra meeting or something to kind of speed up the process? I would be supportive of that, just so we're not waiting 2 weeks to do it. Something, if we have to do it, I hope we do not.
We would look at the most expeditious and legal remedy we can.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Pam, please call the roll.
Okay, happy to. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle. Oh, I'm sorry, Elise is not on this. She's recused herself, I apologize. Let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you. David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. And Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Well, thanks everybody from Post and Connect One and the whole crew. We will prevail on this. So thanks everybody for chipping in and helping us out. So with that, we'll move on to our next order of business for tonight. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Post.
The next order of business is item 8H, resolution number 41, series of 2020. Resolution of Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving Equitable as a financial advisor, record keeper, and third-party administrator related to the town's 457 and 401A retirement plans. Christy and Jeff.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. We also have on the call, I'm just looking, I've got Andy Rhodes here. We also have Sean Duncan, who is under a tornado warning, so he may need to leave in a moment's notice over in Texas, but we have our Equitable team here to help answer any questions. So thank you both for being here tonight. So sure appreciate it.
Sorry, sir, but that's what you get for living in Texas.
Well, yeah, I used to live in Illinois, so I can understand Tornado Alley for sure. So, but so grateful for them to be here tonight. I'm just really excited on behalf of the employees to have this presentation tonight. This has been the culmination of a couple years of conversations with our employees and work. It really started in 2019 when employees started talking to me about, hey, you know, we really want to look at other options around our employee retirement. We don't have anybody that really works with us on an annual basis, and we want to see what else we could do to be more proactive on our employee retirement plan. So so that's where it started, and then from there we then put out an RFP in the spring, and we then rescinded that RFP until the fall because of COVID. And so now then we had 3 different advisors that had submitted proposals, and one of those was Equitable. The other 2 were Stifel and Lockton. And so what we did as far as vetting this is then we created an ad hoc employee committee. And to review those proposals, I talked to them about the current town plan, the retirement plan that exists as we have it right now, and what employees wanted. We had 7 different employees that were part of that process. And then they unanimously recommended equitable. And then we brought it through the Finance Advisory Board, who had helped with the RFP proposal process, along with Chris Strother, who is another plan advisor that we consulted with just to make sure we did a good job on our RFP. And Finance Advisory Board, who have a wealth of knowledge in this topic as well, also unanimously chose equitable. And here's why is first of all, they have a local presence that I think the employees are really strong on, that they're going to be here to help our employees, to meet with their employees, and they have a local team. And secondly is their fee structure is very competitive. Our other two proposals looked at a 50 basis point fee for finance advisor, and theirs is 30 basis points. And then on top of that, they're rolled into kind of an all-in-one option. So they're going to be the town's record keeper and third-party administrator in association with other partnerships they have. So it's going to be super efficient as well. And then on top of that, they're looking at meeting with employees probably twice a year. So we're going to get a lot of hands-on work with them, which we're really grateful to see as well. So had Jeff Conklin review a plethora of documents that were all the legalese around this. And what we decided is he did a preliminary review and they looked okay. And then, but then we just wanted to include their proposal here and then give us the ability to approve those documents with further review and discussion with our ad hoc employee retirement committee, so we can make sure we design our plan in accordance with what's best for the employees.
Yeah, this is Jeff. I'll just add to what Christy said, and I'm sure Sean can add more detail, but the action by council would be to approve the change to equitable, and the specific implementing agreements and other documents would get built out, so to speak, based on the specific preferences as we work through those with equitable.
Is Equitable is this a wholly owned or a subsidiary of the insurance company, or is it just all one entity? Or
Sean, if you want to take that and start and answer that question, that'd be great.
Certainly. Equitable is it is a publicly traded company. We are part and parcel with the Equitable as a company. Our record keeping arm in our group retirement arm is one of the strongest revenue streams within our company. We also do life insurances. We do group coverage. There's an entire, major company that's publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange for that. We have quite a lot of business that we do with municipalities and K through 12s throughout the entire nation. We've been doing retirement plans for over 60 years.
Great, thank you.
And the town of Carbondale currently uses them, as well as the city of Rifle locally.
Great. Questions of council to Christy? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 41, series of 2020, approving Equitable as our financial advisor for our 401A and 457 plans. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that the town council approve resolution number 41, series 2020.
Or second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely, thank you. Let's begin with Bill Infante.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Glenn. Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan. Gary Tenenbaum?
Yes.
Thank you, Gary. Elise Hoddle?
Yes.
Thank you. Bill Kane?
Yes.
Thank you. And David Knight?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you, guys. Yeah, just, that 20% a year would be an excellent return, I think, for that fund. So.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Well, council, I think this concludes our business. Is there any additional business that we need to take up, Ryan? Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I just, as a matter of course, over the last few years, we add as an informational item the discretionary grants that council provides. And I did just want to point out that was in the packet. We worked with Elise Hoddle, David Knight, and Glenn Drummond. We reviewed a number of applications, and several of our nonprofits will be funded through this. We were able to give about $47,000 this year, and we'll be letting those recipients know that they were awarded that money. But this is a feel-good thing, and I think really proud that the town's able to provide that assistance. So thank you to the council members that helped on that.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Appreciate you chipping that time. Really helpful.
Mayor, I have one thing I'd like to add.
Yes, Susan.
Well, we've been in contact with Santa and Mrs. Claus, and although they know that we're not going to have a big holiday festival this year, we do have some activities, and we hope to make our website live. So we'll have a link on the town's website where you'll be able to find out about the town activities. The first one that's coming up is we're going to have a residential lighting contest for homes. If you have an apartment, if you have a townhouse, we have different categories, and you have to have your lights done by December 7th. So that one's kind of time sensitive, but you can also write your letter to Santa by emailing santa@basalt.net, and we'll have a couple drop boxes for that. The art base will still make a little ornament kit, and you'll be able to pick that up at Lions Park or at the Triangle Park. We're having a cutout Santa and Mrs. Claus, so you can have your selfie at Lions Park and Triangle Park. On December 12th at 10 o'clock, we're going to have Zoom with Santa and Mrs. Claus, and you sign up through the Basalt webpage. We'll have a little link that you can sign up. And we're also working on the parade, but we do have some logistics to work through because the fire department had indicated that they were escorting us. So we need to kind of work through with that, and also just making sure that the two counties are with us on the way that we're doing the parade. But the good news is that your kids can sign up for Talking to Santa on Zoom, and we're trying to do as many fun things as we can. And always shop local, even though we get that sales tax rebate, more of your money stays in the community if you shop local. So that's my plug for the night.
Hey, are all those activities on the town website?
They're going to be, we'll probably go live tomorrow. They'll be on the news section of the website. There'll be a link to our Santa page that has that activity, and you'll see.
Lighting? Are we going to do a tree lighting?
You are going to individually light the tree, Mayor, and we're going to interview you, and you're going to be posted, but we're not doing any group activities in order to make everyone safe.
Great. Okay. Excellent. And I have to ask, do we have a menorah lighting as well? Is that going to take place out on?
You know, it was being planned. Jason, that we were working on it. There might be some complications because of this. They do need to get their event permit now approved by the county. So we have to work through, they have to work through those logistics. But yes, they were planning on having a menorah lighting at Triangle Park.
Everybody. So, all right, guys. Well, this was a lot of material, and I appreciate council's hard work, and have a great Thanksgiving. Lots of alpine touring over the holidays. Earn your turns over this weekend, I think. But great work, and we got through a lot tonight. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble.